Brothers and sisters, thank you very much for watching. My name is Don. Thank you to all my subscribers. I'm doing a video because I like to, warn people that the devil is very crafty. I'm going to talk about what watching TV does to the brain. I will show a little clip of a video, and how, as I said, the devil uses a television. Everybody's got a television, some more than others. There's one in my house, but we have to be very careful. It looks innocent, this TV, but no way. I found some good information you need to know. It's a warning for those who want, true Christians about, watching the television and what it does. Also for the children, So let me read a scripture. 1 Peter 5:8. Keep your senses, be watchful. Your adversary, the devil, walks about like a roaring lion, seeking to devour someone. See, he's very cunning, very crafty, using the TV. And what the television, the apparatus does to the brain, as well as the content, which I will talk about later. Keep your senses. I will talk more about that. And what the TV does to your senses. Because the devil's very crafty and cunning. He wants to bring down Christians, and they're starting at a young age, children. I'll show a 5-minute clip of a video about what it does to the brain, watching it too long. And I will leave the link. This is by Little Light Studios, called TV Hypnosis, Frontal Lobe Shutdown, Alpha Mode. I will speak more about that after showing a 5-minute clip.
So what happens when you're an adult? When you're watching television, you're essentially staring at a blinking light, much like the mice in Christakis' experiment. If you've ever experienced a mind fog after watching television, you're not alone. The brain has 4 modes that it operates in, 4 brainwave patterns. Delta is when you're deep asleep, theta is when you're in light sleep, alpha is awake but relaxed. It's the mode of thinking that you are in when you're in the most heightened state of suggestibility. And then there's beta, the highest functioning mode, like when you're reading a book or you're having a very stimulating conversation. In 1969, Herbert Krugman did a study where he found that in less than 60 seconds, the human brain switched from beta brainwave patterns, those exhibited during logical thought, to alpha brainwave patterns. Alpha is not a bad brainwave pattern to be in, but when you're in that brainwave pattern a lot of the time, and if you look at the averages of how much people are watching television, this just leaves the mind unfocused and unable to concentrate. Researchers have said that watching television is similar to staring at a blank wall for several hours. Robert Kuby did a study which appeared in Scientific America in 2002.
Looking at how people experienced television in the flow of their everyday life. And we used a beeper technology where we would beep people at intervals, and they would write down what they were doing, how they were feeling, and so on. And I was able to look at this stuff, and I was able to show and demonstrate what kinds of days people experienced when they would watch more at night. And the answer to that was they felt not very good at work. They had a really bad day at work. I found that people who didn't have a good tolerance for what I called unstructured time watched more TV. And I would say this is probably true for use of the internet too. If you don't feel comfortable with yourself and you need to fill up that time when you're by yourself and you don't have anything else to do, then what are you going to do? You're going to gravitate to the easiest most inexpensive medium that was ever invented, which is virtually free, television, and fill up your mind with something else. So it's a kind of form of escapism.
The effects of television on the mind are probably one of the most studied aspects of our society. And one of the things that takes place in the mind is that the frontal lobe is being bypassed. Within minutes of sitting down and watching television, the frontal lobe activity simply goes almost to nothing.
The frontal lobe of the brain is the seat of spirituality, morality, and the will. It's actually the analytical portion of our brain, and it's actually the decision maker. And so it's a crucial aspect in regards to our future success and happiness, is how well our frontal lobe is functioning. And unfortunately, entertainment television suppresses the frontal lobe of the brain. Actually, in about 90 seconds of viewing it, the frontal lobe circulation begins to go down, and it actually has an adverse effect. And the interesting thing is, people watch entertainment television often due to the fact that they feel a little depressed or anxious, and it kind of calms them. But in reality, it's a very short-term fix, and it's going to complicate things in the long run. Of course, I'm most known for the one who treats depression and anxiety. In fact, we treat the most severe forms of depression and anxiety. And what we have found is virtually every depressed patient will have about a 40% decrease in circulation and activity of the frontal lobe of the brain. And so we're trying to enhance the frontal lobe. And so, unfortunately, a lot of these gadgets that produce this overstimulation, they can be fun for the short term. But, there's more fun things to do than ever before in human history, but yet we have more depression than ever before in human history, more anxiety. Mental health problems are skyrocketing throughout the world. And the entertainment medium is one of the primary reasons why this is occurring. Studies will clearly demonstrate that when you go to entertainment as a way to either get fun and it becomes a habitual process, the risk of depression and anxiety will more than double.
So we decided to drive down to LA and to talk to...
Isn't that quite interesting, So, as I said, the cabal, the elites, Luciferian elites, they created the television. So when you watch movies, your laptop on the big screen, the cinema on the television, mobiles, tablet, what that really does, according to this, study, as the video suggests, you go into, it says here, you have 4 wavelengths. Beta is when you're reading and stimulated, but alpha waves is when you're awake and relaxed. And this is here, if you watch the TV, according to the study, too long, for long periods of time, you actually switch to the alpha, awake and relaxed mode. This is he said, this is how the cabal will influence you. That's why programs and films, that's what they call programs. So when watching TV for long periods of time, you can shift to the alpha, awake, relaxed mode, where you're at the most suggestible or heightened or very prone to be programmed. It's the most heightened suggestibility wave, so they can program you with whatever they want. They can influence your mind at a subconscious level. That's why they can tempt you to buy things in advertisements. But it's much more than that. They can influence you with so many bad moral standards, worldly things, to accept material things. So that's quite interesting. But also it says frontal lobe shutdown. Just simply, watching, it says here, in just 90 seconds, just over a minute, or 60 seconds, 60 to 90 seconds watching TV, it's a bit worrying. The frontal lobe shuts down and has adverse effects. Frontal lobe shutdown. Another term for that is brain dead. That's a term for frontal lobe shutdown. But the frontal lobe is the third eye. That's where the God gene is, the seat of spirituality and morality and decision making and belief in God. What happens is when you watch it too long, just 90 seconds worth, watching TV, it turns off, and then what happens? It just turns off, and the moral standards are turned off, and then you're easily influenced with this, this alpha wave is when you're the most suggestible. And it says here, he treats severe people with this person who says he treats people with severe forms of depression and anxiety, and what he's found out, the people tend to have 40% decrease of the frontal lobe activity of the brain. The God gene is turned off, and and he said, but also he found out it's the people who had depression, they get two times worse. More depressed people watching TV for long periods of time get more depressed, more anxiety, and more mental health issues. He says and that's one of the prime causes of this, severe depression and anxieties is entertainment media. It's the medium, it's the television itself that can, the thing is, you've got mobiles, televisions, internet, where you can see movies, and also computer consoles, all these things, entertainment means, are the prime cause of depression, anxiety, mental health. But this is a danger for Christians and especially children. They're programming, the cabal or elite, they program young children at a young age when they're developing, you see. So, so the best things, it's the best thing to do is just, if you can get into, the alpha wave state in just a few minutes, and where you're easy programmed, your mind is easily programmed by what you're watching. It's best to cut down on watching TV so much. Let me read what it says in 1 Thessalonians 5:6. Do you remember? It says, "Be careful, because Satan goes around like a roaring lion, seeking to devour people and to keep your senses." And again, it says here, "Keep your senses." You see, 1 Thessalonians 5:6. "So then, let us not sleep on as the rest do, but let us stay awake and keep our senses." How can you keep your senses if you're watching TV too much and your frontal lobe is turned off and you go into the alpha wave mode where you're easily suggestible, easily programmed with what the bad content they show you. Is it? Let me read something. And he mentioned about brain fog, mind fog. Yeah, as I said, the term for frontal lobe shutdown is brain dead. because of the flickering screen, it's like being hypnotized. That's why it's called TV hypnosis. Of course, movies flicker too, but Manda said, who studies these things, when we watch the Zaret News, when we watch TV, we stare unwaveringly at a small screen, at the movies. At the movies, with a much larger screens, our eyes move around, breaking the trance. So the bigger the screen, it's easier to break the trance because it's a big screen. But a small screen, the TV trance, the scientists told Manda, in response to the medium is the TV apparatus, rather than to any of the content. Once the set goes on, the brain waves close down. The brain waves slow down. The longer the set is on, the slower the brainwave activity. So it goes from beta, which is stimulated, to the alpha wave. And the longer people watch television, the stronger their alpha waves become. Alpha waves are associated with trance-like acceptance. Trance-like acceptance. Look inside the Mooney's brain and you'll see nothing but alpha waves. Beta waves, which indicate conscious rational thought, grow progressively weaker the longer the subject watches the television. Eventually they diminish to the point of people, you see, and then it diminishes the longer they watch the TV. In 1978, a man named Jerry Manda wrote a book called 4 Arguments for the Elimination of Television. He pointed out that the fluorescent flickering of the television screen is known to trigger epileptic fits in some non-epileptics. Television epilepsy is fairly rare. What does TV do to the rest of us? Those it doesn't send into fits. Manda says it puts us into something very much like hypnotic state, because we don't know it, but the screen's flickering. Having a subject stare at flickering lights is a standard means of inducing hypnosis. So, you see, also Manda said just the TV sends out 30 images a second. That's 3 times too many for the conscious mind to process. So the images shoot directly into the subconscious. They gather and fester and cause us to send $1,000 money orders, by getting, in other words, programmed to buy things on TV, adverts. So, it's like, would you believe it? These flickering screens induces hypnosis, and watching too long, as I said, goes into alpha waves. This is it. And it goes on to say, so what does your brain do when you're sitting in a theatre, in a cinema, looking at a giant screen, wearing 3D glasses and surround sound, and processing the 24 images that flip per second? Your brain dutifully processes those stimuli and does little else. In fact, your prefrontal cortex, which is involved in impulse control and God gene, future thinking, morality, whatever, moral choices, is basically inactivated in the process. That's part of you. That's why part of you gets lost in the movie. And, for children, it can be very, for children, the extra processing that their brains have to do may make them more vulnerable to the content. So even more vulnerable, that's why, as I said, be wary if you're a Christian to not, look at the TV too long. You become suggestible. It's like TV hypnosis, but also especially for children. As it says here, you need to keep your senses. How can you keep your senses if you gain a mind fog in just over 90 seconds? you know, it's called, as I said, brain dead, that's the term, mind fog or brain fog. And, you know, what do you call it? So as I said, the Satan's very crafty, you know, everybody's got a TV, some have more than one TV in their house. So, you know, I suggest if you're a Christian, you know, you have children, to limit how long you spend it, you know, because there's so much. I'm going to talk about the contents. I spoke about the medium, the TV, which is used to program our brains, but the bad contents, I will talk about that. It's not very good for Christians. You know, it should be, you know, limited to watch. You know, violent content on TV, occult and magic. I'll speak more about that. Horror and violence. So, you know, so let me read Matthew 6:24. No one can slave for two masters, for either you will hate one and love the other, or he will stick to the one and despise the other. You cannot slave for God and for riches, but in this case, you can't, you know, don't be addicted to the TV. You know, it says there, you know, people, you know, when they're bored, they spend time looking at the TV. Instead, you know, read the Bible, you know, learn about spiritual things, you know. Don't waste your time with too much TV, because it's bad content and it programs your brain. As I said, I will deal about the content, you know, wicked content next time. So let me, you know, read John 17:3. Instead of looking at the TV too much, study the Bible, read about Christ. Is it 17:3? This means everlasting life. They're taking in knowledge of you, the only true God, and the one whom you sent forth, Jesus Christ. So, you know, this means everlasting life. Reading that. Watching TV is just a wasting your life away. Anyway, if you haven't come to know Christ, please do, you know, because he's the only way to salvation. You know, as in John 14:6, I am the way, the truth, and the life. You know, so please, you know, come to Christ Jesus and gain salvation. God bless. Thank you.